Hey everyone, how you doing? Julian here. Welcome back to Python for Beginners. In this episode, we're going to be installing Python on Linux. We're actually going to be using a third-party tool called Pyenv, which makes installing and managing different versions of Python on your Linux system really simple, nice and easy, and I'd recommend it over trying to build it from source, download it yourself. So yeah, let's jump into it. As you can see here, I've got a virtual machine open and we're using Ubuntu 18.04. This will work on most other distributions of Linux, and I'll explain how to do that shortly. But you can see here, I've got a terminal open, and if we hit Python, you can see we've not got Python well, we do have Python installed, but it's version 367, which ships with Ubuntu. So let me close that, clear that, and let's go ahead and get started with Pyenv. So open a browser and head over to Pyenv. Just search for it in Google and the GitHub page should come up. If not, then just head to this URL here, github.com/pyenv/pyenv. So scroll down, feel free to have a read through it, understand what it does and how it works. But we're going to skip ahead and just get going. So first things first, you want to come over and make sure you've got Git installed on your Ubuntu system. We do Git version, yeah, we've got Git installed, that's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to copy this line here, which is going to clone this repo into your home directory into .pyenv. So just go ahead and return that command. That's done. Next up, we need to add a few lines to our bash rc file. Now, depending on what distribution you're using, you're either going to have to add this to your .zshm file, bash profile, or bash rc. We're on Ubuntu, so we're going to be modifying the .bash rc file. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to copy this first line here from section 2. I'm going to paste that in and I'm just going to change bash profile to bash rc and hit return. I'm going to do the same thing with the second line. So go ahead and just copy and paste that in, rc. The reason I'm doing the copy and paste thing is because I don't want to be reading out a command, get something wrong, or you put in a wrong command. It's not going to break your system or anything, but it's just going to slow us down. So the third line we need to copy is this one here, number 3. So just copy, paste, and again we're going to change bash profile to bash rc, hit return, and that's done. Let's just have a quick look at our bash rc file. We're going to open that with nano, so we're in the home directory, but let's just go ahead and do that. Open the file, tab down, and you can see here we've added these lines to our bash rc file. So to get out of nano, just Control X, and that will close it. Next up, we need to restart the shell, so just go ahead and copy this line, exec shell, and hit enter, and that will reload the configuration so everything can happen. Cool, right, so that is effectively Pyenv installed. So let's go ahead and look at some of the commands. So if we just run Pyenv, you'll see the list of commands. We're really just today going to be looking at install, version, and versions, which are the kind of commands that you're going to be using most of the time. But before we actually go ahead and install any versions of Python, we need to make sure that our system has got the right dependencies. So depending on which version or distribution of Linux you're running, you're going to need different build dependencies. So if you scroll up to point number 5, and there's this link here called the Pyenv wiki. So we click on that. That's going to take us through to this page. Scroll down a bit, and depending on what distribution you're running, you are going to need a different list of packages. So you can see here, Ubuntu, Debian and Mint users need to use these packages, CentOS, Fedora 21 and below, etc. And it's pretty much got all of the main versions of, or the main distributions of Linux listed here. So we're on Ubuntu, so let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to add sudo and then just paste in what we've just copied and hit return. Stick your password in if you need to. Now I've already got these packages installed, but if you don't, then just let that go ahead and do its thing, and once you're done we can move on. Cool, right, so we've got all the dependencies we need to build Python. So let's go ahead and install Python using Pyenv. So if we run the command Pyenv versions, that's what we'd expect. We don't have any Python versions being managed by Pyenv at the moment. So let's go ahead and install one. So it's as simple as Pyenv install and then the version number of Python that you want to install. So if we head over to python.org, the latest version, as you can see, is 3.7.2, and that's what we're going to download with Pyenv. So you just put in the version number, super simple, 3.7.2, hit return, and let that do its thing. So the good thing and the thing I really like about Pyenv is that you can have multiple different versions of Python installed on your system at the same time and switch back and forth from them really, really easily. You know, some packages and frameworks and libraries only work with specific versions of Python. So it's a nice way to quickly be able to work on different projects with different environments and use different versions of Python depending on what you're trying to do. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, but trust me, it's a lot quicker than trying to build Python from source for yourself. So just sit tight, let that do its thing. And just to recap again, depending on what distribution you're using, just make sure you've got the packages installed that Pyenv suggests in their repo. That's still doing its thing. And just another note, while we're waiting for that to happen, if you do want to remove Pyenv, you simply run this command here, rm-rf followed by this variable here, Pyenv root. Still doing its thing, just sit tight and be patient, trust me, it's a lot quicker than doing it yourself. I definitely recommend having a read over these docs as well, they're pretty cool. Lots of information here. You can understand sort of how things work, what's going on behind the scenes, etc. Cool, right, installed Python 3.7.2 and it's given us the path to where it's installed it. So that .pyenv directory in our home folder holds the versions of Python that we install, which is very nice. So now let's have a look at some of the Pyenv commands again. So if you run Pyenv version on its own, you'll see it's actually using the system version which came with this distribution of Linux, in our case Ubuntu 18.04. Now if we run Pyenv versions with an S, you can see which versions of Python that we've downloaded and installed using Pyenv. So you can see there we've got 3.7.2, but you know, if we try and launch Python, we it's saying command not found. So what do? We need to set our global Python version with Pyenv. So Pyenv global and then the version number. Pyenv global 3.7.1. We installed 3.7.2, didn't we? There we go. Great. So Pyenv global followed by the version number that you want to set as your global sort of system version of Python. So now if we launch Python, we get 3.7.2. If I quit that And now let's have a look at pip. Pyenv will kind of manage the configuration for pip as well, which is nice. Pip-v, which is going to give us the version plus the path to where it's installed. So Pyenv versions 372, site packages, pip, which is perfect, exactly what we expected. So now, like I said, managing different versions of Python is really easy. If you want a specific release, just head over here and look for the version number that you want. Let's go ahead and grab 368. So Pyenv install plus a version number 368, hit return. And again, we've got to sit here and wait, but trust me, it's a lot quicker than trying to download it, unpack it, you know, run make, run configure, you know, it just takes care of that for you. So really, really convenient. So just sit tight, let that do its thing. Feel free to skip the video ahead a bit. I'm not going to fast forward this in editing, so yeah, either hang with me or feel free to skip ahead. I love Pyenv, it's great. And it does work on Mac as well. If you're using a Mac, the installation is a little bit different. As you can see here, where are we? Installation, yeah, use Homebrew. So Homebrew's a package manager for Mac. I'm not using a Mac, so we are not using Homebrew. So that's done, 368 is installed. So if we run Pyenv versions, you can see there we've got 368 and 372, and we've got a little star next to 372 because that's been set as our global version. But now let's say we want to switch to 368, we do Pyenv global plus the version number we want to set as our global version. So 368. Boom, simple as that. Now if we launch Python, we get Python 368. Very, very nice indeed. And again, pip-v. If you don't know what pip is, don't worry, we're going to cover that very, very shortly. But it's the package manager for Python that lets you sort of download, install, and run third-party packages, code that other people have already written. Really, really nice. Okay, cool. So that's done. Great. That's pretty much it. So if you do want to install Python on Linux, do it this way. Trust me, it's easy and really simple commands to get to know. So again, Pyenv just gives you the list of commands there, and feel free to have a read through the documentation to learn a little bit more. All right, so that's it from me, and I will see you on the next one.